Hey, good morning, Patriots. It's another great day. Well, for us, it's a day before snow, depending on where you are in the country. But we're bracing. All of our roads have got like a coat of salt on them. So uh, don't go licking the roads if you're looking for salt. Just saying. But someone who's perpetually frozen because he's in New York is Chris Cordani. Good morning, Chris.
And good morrow, good sir. There we go.
Yeah, you don't lick the roads up there if you like if you like if you boil an egg, you don't go out there on the road and like roll it around on it to get salt on it, do you? I hope not, because that's dangerous. You wouldn't
No,
want to
because
do it.
I take the salt right out of the bag, the rock salt, and
Ah,
pour it right in the egg. That's what I do.
that's right. So it's good because if you salt your sidewalks, you can like boil eggs and just have you could just like kind of rub the boiled egg on the ground and eat it. It's kind of cool, isn't that cool?
Yeah. Again, I like it nice and hard boiled anyway. So if you put the salt directly in with the boiled water, it salts the entire
Yeah,
surrounding of the egg, then it seeps
that's
in.
true.
If
That's true.
it's soft boiled, you poke the little hole in it and you just pour the rock salt in there and you shake it up a little bit.
See that you just described the Democrat Party. They're all soft boiled. You can poke them in their head.
Oh, yeah, by the way,
Speaking,
it didn't take long for David Hogg to, pull himself into some kind of financial scandal after that, huh?
No, we'll
Right.
talk about that. He's like soaking him for all it's worth already. So, but someone who's not hard boiled, who is soft and cuddly, and that's Karyn Turk. Good morning, Karyn.
Thanks. Good morning. That was quite the introduction. I don't know that I've ever gotten soft and cuddly before. I like it.
Well, it's
I like
better
it a
than
lot. It's
being
good.
it's better than being soft headed and pokey, like we're talking about soft boiled Democrats, right? Right, Chris?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess Hogg does have a huge egg head, doesn't he?
That's
Oof.
right. His
It's
head is three
unbelievable. I mean,
times the size of his
these are
body.
what, this is
Yeah.
all they have. This is all they have. All they have are people like David Hugg. It's all they have left. I mean, these
Well,
people are lunatics. They're
Karyn, I think
lunatics.
they're getting well. See, they're getting more revealing who they really are. And we're going to go through a
Hmm.
lot of that today with people at USAID, Social Security. Did you see that Elon Musk found a line item of 1.4 trillion dollars? It's like we don't know where all the money's going because there's no code on it. So my summary is someone had better be going to jail. Someone had better be like
Yeah.
uh,
You would
we
hope
we
so,
lock
right?
Needs
away.
to happen.
Yeah, so we lock away people down here in North Carolina for $30,000 of grift, stealing things out of the coffer of safe funds. So if you go to jail for $30,000, you better damn well go to prison for a billion or more. I mean, this
Well,
is
as
this
someone
is ridiculous.
who took a plea deal on a $17,000 misdemeanor back in the day, from the Social Security Department, which I won't get into the whole sordid story, but that money is paid into the system. That belongs to the individual. That is
Right.
not the
Right.
government's money. So
Exactly.
there's so
Exactly.
many things wrong with this system, and the fact that there's actually now going to be some recourse is so long, way overdue, because so many people have been abused by the system. And now we find out there's people on the rolls that are 115 years old. Yeah, who's
Yeah.
cashing these checks? Probably illegal immigrants.
Well, hold on.
There's no way
Oh no,
around
I
this.
I
Now,
think it's worse.
now I know
Oh,
why
I think it's really bad.
Methuselah posted on Facebook. They're going to take away your Social Security because
It's
See,
apparently, at least
unbelievable.
because
what
he's still
happened?
getting it right here. It's three hundred
See, no. What happened?
369
We're
here.
still funding. We're funding the Roman Legion, the retirees from the
Yeah.
Roman Legion. They're still around. All this 2,000 years later, we're still trying to help pay for the Appian Way. That road, remember that road, the Appian Way? It still exists, by the way, but very well engineered. Apparently, we're still paying on the Appian Road, and it's not even here. Just saying.
That sounds about
But,
right.
but look at
Sounds
this
about right.
360 to 369. They don't even go through after 250 to 350. There's one person supposedly making money way before the nation was even established.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
He's paying
really
he's
wow.
paying
born
the
way before
pilgrims.
born way
Plymouth
before the
Rock,
nation was
the
established.
Plymouth Rock payments. That's right. We're
Most,
paying the pilgrims, and by the way, most of the Pinta Santa Maria, they're still getting checks as well from Columbus. Just saying,
all
just
the crews of all four of those Columbus
Nina,
ships. I
Pinta,
bet
and
you guys
Santa
don't.
Maria.
There were four Columbus ships. Do you know all of them? Columbus had four ships. People don't realize that. But can you name all of them?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that either. I
because
mean, I can name the three.
we only
I
know
didn't know
about the
about the
three
four.
because the other one fell off the edge of the earth.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
I got you. I
Or
got
That was
you.
the That was the ship that Rick Wilson was on. It
Well, there was
fell
a,
and
there was
hit Florida.
conspiracy to hide that. That's what happened.
That's right. It fell and it went through time. See, Rick Wilson and
Can
all the
you
Lincoln
imagine? Can
Project
you
guys
imagine how
hit it.
much better off the middle class in this country would be if they haven't abused the system for the last 30 years? Can you
Exactly.
imagine what would have been done with this money? It's just the most unbelievable thing. I mean, I'm so happy that we're at this moment where finally this is being addressed, but it's so unbelievable that it's gone on for so long and there's so much corruption. You talk about people going to jail, it should be thousands of people that go to jail. If you're knowingly,
Well, we'll
in the
see.
wrong, yeah,
We'll
you
see.
should face some
Yeah,
repercussions.
yeah. Well, that's my point, Karyn. I mean, I last night I sat through. This is not a complaint; it's an observation. I sat through 3.5 hours of county commissioner meetings. Half of that was closed. We're talking about economic development issues relating to how we can make the community better. The rest was all about accountability. Where do we get money? How do we appropriate money? How do we spend money? And we spent hours on that trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. Now, somehow, once you get past the state, at the federal system, it's like, oh, yeah, we'll just pay everybody anything we want. And I think we're going to come to find that U.S. aid was the ultimate money launderer for the Democrat Party. Christy, we were talking about that knucklehead female that was. Let me bring her name up here
Samantha
because
Power,
she
right?
was.
There's so many of them.
No. Samantha Power. This was one of Samantha Power's deputies.
Oh,
This was Christina Dry. Christina Dry. She basically came out. She was the one who was all shadowed the first time. Talking all about people. I'm afraid of people finding out who I am. She admitted that she took books, incriminating books, out with her when she heard Doge was in the building. Well, that's a clue.
ha,
Yeah, you think? You're
ha.
thinking who
Yeah,
she's trying to protect herself. So it's like right there, it doesn't take long to figure out, who's at fault there.
yeah.
It's kind of
So
crazy.
it is crazy now.
It's
And then,
crazy.
like I mentioned, Elon Musk and his Doge folks found that there she is right there. So now it's interesting because she started off as a national security expert in a private intel firm, and then she ended up as a humanitarian. Strange, huh? I
Hmm.
don't think there. Yeah, she was
That's an
part of the
interesting
CIA
move.
front.
There
It's
you go.
not. It's
She, her.
that's what I'm saying. This
Yeah.
was all CIA. CIA was funding, and she on her Twitter account, which is now gone. She deleted it. She had the blue hearts and Ukrainian flags. There's a clue for you who she's really working for, right?
Well, we have the pronouns right here on the LinkedIn profile, and
Yeah,
she's a champion of peace and human
champion,
rights. Yeah, okay.
champion,
Champion of
champion.
laundering money that was supposed to go to peace and human rights, but different
That's
story.
right.
Well, no, good story for right now.
She's
Yeah,
like the
it's really.
she's like the Rocky of peace and prosperity. She's like she's up there dancing around with her gloves on, with her fighting gloves. So
She's no Chuck
I swear to
Whitmer.
yeah. So the point is the more the Doge kicks over the rocks, the more we see Democrats posing as humanitarians, grifting and grafting all this money to their causes. So
Yeah.
Karyn, so let me ask you because you and Ed. Good morning, evil overlord Ed. Ed's around. I saw him the other day, by the way. I saw him down in Florida.
Hey, Ed. What's up, Ed?
Yeah. Good morning, Ed. So Ed, well, you and Ed used to talk often about just the corruption you guys saw. Back before we
Hmm.
came on the show, and so,
Yeah.
but to me, everything you guys used to talk about was peanuts compared to what we're seeing now. I mean, we're
Peanuts.
talking about we're talking about an order of
Absolutely.
magnitude more, right? I mean,
Yes.
this is industrial level corruption, right? I mean,
I do have to say that, I think at that point I probably knew how bad it was, but you were still labeled at that point, Tony, as like a total conspiracy theorist.
yeah.
If I would have
Oh yeah.
said some of the things that have been on my mind forever, people would be like, that's crazy. That's not
Right.
happening. Obviously that's not the real story. Well, now we know, like, yeah, like he's exposing it all, which is what he promised the American people to do. This is what Donald
Absolutely.
Trump said he would do. And I remember like a year and a half ago thinking to myself, like, where is Elon? Like, where is Elon? And all of these things have come together. And I've said this on the show before. I feel like God is in control. I don't want to forget
Oh yeah.
Jesus calling because I had a Jesus calling moment. I met somebody on vacation and they also read the book. So it was a good reminder of how important it is to get to it on the show. But it's a
Yep.
reminder that, like, God rewards us. I do truly believe that when we do the right thing and we stick to our
Yeah.
convictions and we become truth tellers, Tony.
So yeah. So let me hit that real quick, guys. I brought it up
Yeah.
yesterday, but I don't think people understand how significant it is. And Chris, you chimed in. So Chris joined the London Center as our tech guy, our media guy. He's still with us now in some
The
form.
resident nerd.
Right?
Love it.
You come on. No. You were don't sell yourself short. You're more like Ed McMahon, just saying. So
Heyo.
anyway, heyo.
I need a
So
vodka in the
you're
morning.
like a smart Ed McMahon. It's like if
Right.
Ed McMahon had a brain, he would be like cool like you. And I'm completely serious about that. You are chill. Anyway, my point being is that the Daily Beast did a hit piece on us, the London Center, back in 2017, because we, the London Center for Policy Research, named after Herb London, not the town, we're like doing all these policy things. Like we were Waleed Ferris and I were on the Gray Kelly show last night. We talked about helping give the Trump administration the foundation concepts for the Abraham Accords, which we did. It's like Waleed was there, I was there, Mike Flynn was asking us for ideas. So we put them all together. And so what's funny, Karyn, is that we came out of the blue. Nobody knew who we were because we weren't on the take. we weren't
Right.
on the goal. We weren't in the ecosphere of corruption. So the left attacks us like the creepily influential Trump. So look at that. So,
But the headlines are all they have. These
I know.
salacious, ridiculous
I know.
accusations is all they ever had.
Exactly.
Well,
And then
all
my
the-
point is,
There was
my
during the
point is,
time of the-
Chris,
Yeah.
my point is that we didn't take any bribes. We were uncorrupted and honest, and we got attacked for it. Go ahead, Chris. That was my point.
Well, that was the time where it was hip to always write hit pieces about anybody associated with Trump because Orange
Yeah.
Man bad was cool. It was the way to get eyeballs back then. Nowadays, it's like people were saying, "Boy, we actually thought like that. That's ridiculous." Yes, there's a huge cult out there that absolutely hates Donald Trump because they believe anything. These are the same people who believe that, oh no, it's only 1% of the budget they're taking down, or oh, it wasn't that much corruption. They're not. The surface was scratched at this point. There are more departments to be going through, and there are more politicians to be investigated. This is going to be a huge wave. And it's going to be, and it's not right versus left. It's the people versus the political class and establishment.
So
that's where the sides lie.
So Karyn, as a question to you, and
Yeah.
I think Chris already knows the answer. 60 Minutes and other mainstream media have done a full court press to try to get sympathy for U.S. AID and its workers. Do you know of anybody who's buying into that sympathy? I don't know of anybody. Do you know of anybody?
I don't know of anybody either. And I have to question myself, but I do try to keep myself away from negative energy. It's something that I really pride myself on, Tony.
Yeah.
So, I try to not be out talking to people that are insane. So I think that insane population has to be dealt with, but I do think it's the minority at this point. And I think there's such a false narrative in the media that's being exposed. We're going to see all of that toppling down. I want to go back and just for a minute, like rewind, because remember at the beginning of all this, we talked about opening up the press in the White House under the Trump administration to new media. There are going to be some things that are going to radically change because when you look at those Daily Beast headlines and all of these things that they throw at conservatives, who's reading it now? Really, virtually no one, unless there's something, in my opinion, mentally wrong.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. So we're coming up at in a few days, we'll be at 1 month. And there's been so much, I believe, positive chaos caused by the disruption of the economic ecosystem of the left, the phony below national security system that Pete Hegseth came in and just said, yeah, we're done with this. The whole, the J.D. Vance thing has got the Europeans crying in their milk. Right, Chris? I mean,
it was so much fun to watch that jerk cry. He's one of the political elite over in Europe who are saying, who are laughing at Donald Trump in the past, who are saying, you white nationalists are the scourge of the world. You people should be back in the holes where you crawled in from, and we're going to make sure our people are obedient to us. Watching this guy cry, and I think it's worth the replay, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. Yeah, go ahead, play it again because this guy crying is spectacular.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic because basically he was lectured. These people were all lectured as, by
In
J.D.
person.
Vance.
This
Right.
wasn't done via X or some like a video feed. It's like, hey, you're all effed up,
Yeah.
and here's why. So,
And
and this
none,
guy took it personally.
and it was a calm guy too, not like Malay or Trump who are really animated and enigmatic. This is J.D. Vance, but here's the guy crying. He was the chairman of this entire Munich Security Council event conference.
Christopher Hoskin.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore.
Yeah, we're not Nazis.
I'm very
Sorry.
grateful
We're not idiots
to
either.
all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Look at it on the big screen too up there.
So-
And they're all applauding him.
So get this. These are the people, Karyn, these are the people who want to talk tough to Putin. They can't even get to a speech. Like,
And Karyn, I haven't seen a
I don't
German
know.
cry
I
like
mean,
that since
as a
1945.
country, we're finally not in a position of weakness. This is the first
Yeah.
time in 4 years. So I'm not surprised that this is the culture. Like crying is part of the culture. It's unbelievable that we've gotten to the point that we are. But Doge is going to do an amazing job, and all of this international stuff is going to come into play in the next few months. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of optimism about how we're being received on the international stage. It's unbelievable. And I don't think the crying is going to work. It's,
No.
it's just unbelievable that that's what they do. Who's crying now, Tony? Who's crying now?
Well,
Hold on a second.
it is
Hold
who's
on.
crying now. Yeah.
Hold on a second. You see, here's the thing. Crying and all of this resonates with the very emotional electorate in America and in a lot of Western Europe. We cannot discount these people. These are the 47%. They're very powerful because they just vote on emotion. They're easily manipulated by, oh, they're going to take your Social Security. Oh, they got your records. They're perpetually alarmed. They do vote Democrat, and they vote basically how they're told. Or
Yeah.
how their fear tells them. So we cannot discount the emotionalists because remember, we still in a general election, 5% of the population decides who wins. And a lot of that
That's right.
means the emotionalists are going to try to
That's
tug on their heartstrings.
It's a great point. It's a great point. And we have to be cognizant that that's not a big part of the population that swings the needle, Chris. It's a great point.
No.
Because it's easy to think, that people have common sense when we know a lot of people don't. And then you whittle down that percentage. And that's actually kind of scary when you think about it. I don't know if I want to think about it right now.
This is why they whittled down freedom of speech. It's not exactly talking on the internet that bothers them. It's people talking to each other that bothers them. That's why we
Right.
were locked down in 2020 for a
Well-
long period of time where people
So let's
couldn't
talk.
congregate and discuss.
Let's
just
talk about Margaret
issues.
Brennan then, because the issue. So Margaret Brennan of 60 Minutes. I think it was. Is it 60? No.
60 Minutes, right?
I'm
No,
complaining.
I was
So
me,
she-
of the
no,
press.
she
yeah.
was on the Sunday show with Marco Rubio,
Right.
and she actually had the insanity. I mean, this is just like, are you kidding me? Level like commentary. She actually asked Marco Rubio about how we could lecture the Europeans on free speech since free speech caused the Holocaust.
What? I saw that. That's
It
right.
is the most ignorant and disgusting thing that I've seen on television in a long time.
It's
I've been
like-
watching the replay again and again, trying to figure out what she was trying to say, and then thinking to
Oh, I
myself,
know
no
what she
one
was
would
trying to say.
possibly say this, and it's clear what she's saying.
Yeah. So the idea is, and this is where we're older. It's like, oh, come on, we're not giving any. We're all older. I think this is meant to be a message to the young kids, like, oh, yeah, it's okay to have policing of free speech. Control of speech is a good thing. Yeah, let's run this. Can you get this, Chris? This is spectacularly bad.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party
This is great.
that has far right views and some historic ties to extreme
AfD.
groups. The context
Wow.
of that was changing the tone of it.
Again, watch the emotional.
It's
Watch
unbelievable.
the emotional movement she's making. She's using this is all emotional manipulation, trying to get people riled up and upset.
She's an anti-Semite, is what she is.
Right.
Oh, at
I'll
minimum.
say it.
Yes.
that the
Well, I have to
censorship
disagree with you.
was
No,
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you.
Good for Marco here saying,
Mark
hey,
Star.
Free
Oh,
speech was not
yeah.
used to
The
conduct
Marco
a
Yeah, no.
genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but
Oh, yeah.
primarily the Jews.
Yeah.
There was no free speech
Oh,
in
yeah.
Nazi Germany. There was
Absolutely
none. There
none.
was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection
Exactly.
of history.
They were
I also think
terrorists.
it's
Good for
wrong.
Marco.
Again, I go back
Yes.
to the point
Clear
of his
and
speech.
concise and calm.
Very
Yeah,
clear.
no, you're wrong.
Exactly. And by the way, the whole point is the Nazis and the communists, all the authoritarian regimes in the world made sure that they eliminated or minimized free speech among the electorate,
Yeah.
That's
especially
right.
in public. And
Yeah.
that's
So I recommend people go back.
And it was
'cause,
socialism was a slippery slope that took them there, Chris, where the Nazis were
Exactly.
able to
The
destroy these countries like
National
Austria.
socialism.
always called them the National Socialist
1928,
Party.
Tony. Absolutely. That's what
The
took
left,
down Austria.
the left always wants to say, "Oh no, this is fascism." No. It's
Yep.
in the name. National Socialists.
Correct.
Fascism was a factor of how they did it,
Of
and
that,
they used corrupt.
right.
Yeah, they used. Oh, well, they didn't take over industry. Yeah, they did. They had one big company, Krupp's, who then actually was the controller of all the other countries in the nation. So yeah, they were all commercial and private, controlled
Yeah.
by one single entity that the Nazi Party ran. I mean, people
Absolutely.
need to be educated. And,
Did you-
They do.
so I have a question for Chris. Chris,
Yes.
is Margaret? So is Margaret Brennan John Brennan's wife or daughter?
That's a good question. I never even gave that thought.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah,
check
me
that out.
neither. I haven't thought about the French president thing either.
Well, how about this? I will do that, and you guys check this out. Remember, did you?
So-
the 60
Oh,
minutes.
good morning, Matt.
Yes.
Hey, good
From
morning.
Chapel Hill. Yeah, from Chapel. Hey,
Wake
Matt,
Forest. Wake Forest. Sorry, I
Wake
was
Forest.
Hey, Matt.
scrolling through my phone. Good morning, guys.
That's
It's
okay.
nice to see you,
Good morning.
Tony, and Chris and Karyn. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. So, Matt, I want Karyn to do one thing before we move on here. Karyn, could you do Wake Up, Jesus Calling?
Yeah,
like-
I'm going to
is
do
he-
it right
is he-
now. And
is he
the
calling
chat
collect
the
again
chat
today?
is blowing up.
Come
What
on.
is
he
it?
call
It's
you
called
again,
Jesus
collect?
Calling, but I love it. Sometimes you call it like "What's up, Jesus?" You've called it a bunch of things, and I think it's good. I think it's catchy, but it's actually Jesus Calling. And today's Jesus Calling is "I am with you." These 4 words are like a safety net, protecting you from falling into despair. Because you are human, you will always have ups and downs in your life experience. But the promise of my presence limits how far down you can go. Sometimes you may feel as if you're in a free fall when people or things you had counted on let you down. Yet, as soon as you remember that I am with you, your perspective changes radically. Instead of bemoaning your circumstances, you can look to me for help. You recall that only I am with you. I am holding you by your right hand, guiding you with my counsel, and afterward, I will take you into my glory. This is exactly the perspective that you need, the reassurance of my presence and the glorious hope of the heaven. Amen. That was really
Amen.
nice today,
you.
guys.
Very nice. By
Right.
the way, Margaret Brennan was never is not related to Brennan, of which you speak, but
Really?
she did produce. She was a producer for Ron and Senna, who was a never Trumper type, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just was curious because, man, oh man, maybe they should get married. Maybe Margaret Brennan and John Brennan should like hook up. I think that would be quite the match.
Hey,
Don't you?
Democrats, even if they were brother and sister, it wouldn't be so bad because apparently Democrats allow that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did Carlos Danger get remarried? Karyn, did Carlos Danger get remarried yet? Oh,
I
the
don't know. I
ex-Mariner.
don't know. Maybe Chris, do you know?
No, I don't know, but he is running for mayor of New York, and apparently Eric
Ah.
Adams may be switching parties. I still go for Adams in this one.
Well-
Curtis Lee was going to run. It's going to be an interesting race, but
The worm
we're probably
does
gonna see
turn,
it.
so to
Yeah.
speak. But that's a different topic. Let's get back to Matt. Hey, Matt. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
From Wake Forest.
Yes.
So, Matt, just for the audience to know, for the patrons to know, Matt and I are friends. Matt and I don't always agree on everything politically, but man, oh man, we've agreed on integrity, on thoughtful discussion and debate. And you're one of the honest intellects that I've always admired. And I'm saying this because you are a friend, and I've said this to you on and off air. You've always maintained the integrity and conviction of the honest convictions you have. You express with clarity and integrity. So I love that about that. And so I think so many people on the left, and maybe maybe what I'm trying to say is those who are honest in their convictions have been in a desert, either left or right. It seems to me there's been this mono party in the middle that basically hates anybody who challenges it. You saw it here in North Carolina when you ran for office, right? I mean, that's kind of the way I interpret things. So what do you think, Matt?
No, absolutely. You have essentially an establishment, an elite, powers that be, whatever phrase you want to use to describe it. And there's an orthodoxy to it. And they will differ on certain things. This is the culture wars often that we hear about and that we're forced to witness and ultimately partake in sometimes. While the larger issues, the issues of economics, incomes, jobs, industry, as well as issues of war and peace are forbidden, are off the table, can't be discussed, right? So the things that affect the four of us, our families, our neighbors, right? Those real day-to-day issues are forbidden. Or I heard you guys talking a little bit about Germany or verboten. Right, so
insane,
dangerous.
And I just want to reply, Tony. Thank you. It's very kind words, and of course, I feel the same way about you. We've been working together for 15 years now.
Wow,
long time. Yeah, and that's the thing. So what has kept us in contact is the fact that we don't always publicly agree, but we recognize that there's a level of integrity that if I say something to you, it's sincere. I'm not going to try to gaslight you. I'm going to give you my view. We'll have an honest discussion about it. The other thing I've noticed here, and we've talked about this both on and off the air. I'm an elected official here in North Carolina. In my county commissioner meetings, I sit between two Democrats. I can tell you for a fact that once you're in office here locally, we work together to better the community. And I'm very proud of my Democrat colleague to my right and to the left. Last night we had a 3-hour meeting. And I can tell you that we agreed on 95% of the issues regarding where we were going to find funding, how we're going to spend it to benefit the community, because we recognize that honest acceptance of facts as they are is the most important thing we can do as elected officials. Somehow, you get to the state level, it gets a little bit diffused, and you get to the federal level, it's gone. And how does that happen? How do you think we go from local level trying to do the right thing to this diffusion of concepts that go up higher above us?
I think the money, one reason, simply the money becomes too much. It just becomes too great. And to get into those positions, even state office is so expensive. Where I live in northern Wake County, for our state legislature races, they're fairly competitive, which says a lot in North Carolina because most things are gerrymandered. So for state races, state house, state senate, we have competitive elections where I live. I get in the election cycle, I get 6 flyers a day in my mailbox, right? And you all know how expensive. Anyone who's ever gone to Kinko's or Staples, something out, and Tony will tell you this: how expensive that you want sticker shock. Run for office and go and print 1,000 color flyers or bulletins or something like that. You'll get some sticker shock. And so we have state senate and state house races that run into the low millions of dollars, right? For a state legislator seat. So I think that's one thing is it's just so expensive. I think also too, the reality of modern communications, our scientific or academic understanding of how human beings respond to communication, which is ugly and awful, but it's true. People like rage. People respond to fear. I heard you guys talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Fear is a great motivator. So these 6 flyers, I would get it every day for state house and state, races, state senate races in my mailbox. It was all fear mongering. It was all fear mongering. And so I think that's part of it. You can't then if you're taking that money, if you're running a campaign based upon fear, based upon the evil of the other. And we've seen the polling on this, right? 40% of both Republicans and Democrats describe members of the other party as evil, right? I mean, and so then you have this requirement for the candidates to personify that. So you can't talk to that guy. He's evil. right? As well as all the other things we were talking about. So I think it's a multiple factors, but I don't see anything, unfortunately, that's breaking it. I don't see anything that, unfortunately, is going to make it better in the short term. I don't want to be overly pessimistic, but, I tend to think that the politics we have right now is only going to worsen until we have some type of calamity or collapse that forces people to work together.
Well, so to that point, I also know Marianne Williamson not well. She and I are not friends. I consider you and I friends. I know Marianne. I've met her. I've spoken to her. I've seen her vibe, but she seems to ignore the fundamental corruption at the heart of the current leadership of the Democrat Party. Because I've seen her kind of talk around it, and what I find, and I don't believe. Let me be very clear. I don't believe the Republican Party should become the mono party. I think without competition and oversight, you tend to, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I'm not one for unrestrained power. I don't believe we should see the Democrat Party ended. I sincerely believe that people with thoughts that don't necessarily comport with mine need to be out there making measured arguments. So I'm not against a party that opposes us. I'm against a party that basically tries to destroy the very fabric of what allows us to have debate and discussion. That's my issue. And one of the guys who supported us, you and I, on this was Dylan Radican. We met on Dylan Radican's shows.
We did.
Dylan was one of those voices in the wilderness who demanded that he bring in people. I remember the first time we met. We were talking about Afghanistan. He brought us into the room, and we had this great, unvarnished discussion of Afghanistan. And I thought, how refreshing!
Right,
we're able to talk the truth. But Dylan only his time on that network was pretty short because people weren't into the idea of having both sides come together for a spirited but polite discussion. So do you think, Matt? Yeah, do you think we're going to be able to right this wrong and actually have people, on the left come back and actually start being more organized and respectful so we can have debates and discussions?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not an interest in the established system, right, in the two major parties to do that. Because again, it doesn't make sense for their own benefit. Like they've got a good thing going. I think ultimately, if you talk to the chairs of the RNC and DNC, they would agree that the only people who are allowed to vote are those who have Fox News or MSNBC subscriptions, right? That's what they want to narrow it down to. Anything they can do to push out anything that isn't identity politics, right? That doesn't consist of us versus the other. That's what they're aiming for. And, and Dylan Radigan, for people who don't know Dylan, he's a really interesting guy, great guy, terrific guy. It's how Tony and I met, as Tony said. Dylan's stories, he used to be on CNBC. And back in the days before the Great Recession, before the Great Crash in 2008, he used to be on CNBC hawking the party line, the big finance, right, the Wall Street line on how great the economy was. And then he had this kind of come to Jesus moment when he realized what he was doing. Yeah. And so he became a radical on MSNBC, calling out everybody. It didn't matter who it was, Democrat, Republican, finance, military, whatever. And Dylan ended up ultimately turning down an offer at MSNBC that would have required him to censor himself, essentially. But he walked away from like $1 million a year because he realized that what he was going to be doing if he had to continue there. Yes, exactly. Yeah, greedy bastard.
There we go.
There you go.
Good book, by the way.
That's perfect.
It is a good book.
My copy is somewhere in this mess over here, or maybe in that mess over there. But yeah, he this idea that he would, and you see that though. You see that with scores of MSNBC on air talent, if you will. Crystal Ball, Cenk Uygur, I'm putting myself on the spot here trying to remember Phil Donahue, Jesse Ventura, there's more than that as well, who have been on MSNBC and then left MSNBC because of the corruption, if you will. Yeah. This isn't corruption. People are taking money on the table. This is more of a corruption of integrity,
intellectual corruption,
journalistic, ethos.
Yeah. No, so I've been on with Crystal Ball back when she was over at the Hill at the Rising, And I don't know if you remember this, Matt. I won back during the Democrat debates of 2016. Was it 16 or 7? No, 2020. During that cycle, Tulsi Gabbard, as you might remember, attacked successfully a lady named Kamala Harris. You may have heard of her. And your favorite drunken aunt. Just say it. Anyway, so in that attack, of course, the internet went nuts for Tulsi, and she was doing so. Google shut down her fundraising, shut down Tulsi's fundraising, putting the finger on the scales as a corporate entity supporting the corporate party because Tulsi was not the Democrats' choice. Just saying, we all know this. But I was on the next morning. I was on air, and I was with Crystal Ball in the studio, and I defended her. I defended Tulsi, and I was a Trump surrogate at the time. It's like. I don't know if that had an effect on Tulsi or not, but I was saying, no. This is wrong. I don't care who you are, what party you are. You as a corporate entity don't have the right to take and put your finger on the scale against someone you don't like because your corporate masters have told you to do something like that. So to me, Matt, that should have been a wake up for your side to say, there's something really wrong here if this happens. So what do you think?
Well, just to be clear, I've never been a member of the Democratic Party.
There you go.
All right, well, there you go. See, that's even better.
Well, you were registered Republican, though.
Good point.
No, I'm not.
Good point.
No, I definitely.
Democrats have attacked you, so that's true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you have more of that antipathy for those that are close to you that you feel are betraying the values they supposedly right. So I'm on the left. I'm a big pro labor union, and so you see the way the Democrats have paid lip service to that, and they right, and they deliver almost nothing to the unions. Here in North Carolina, we have an Amazon warehouse that's unionizing not far from me, and the support there's almost no support from the North Carolina Democratic Party for that union. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's a great example. So President Trump is not against unions. As a matter of fact, I think he's done more.
No, and I think he knows too, Tony, that like if people are taken care of, if people are taken care of, they wouldn't use unions. Unions are a way to take on corporations that weren't taking care of their employees. If we were in a country that was flush with money and we didn't have the Democrats stealing from us, it would be a very different world, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the issue. And that's where I think the Young Turks have gotten it right. I've seen a lot of issues, obviously, with
one of the Young Turks.
They become the party of the corporation. Yeah, but to your point, Matt, I think most people would recognize that having a just debate to go through and let people make the decision for themselves. I'll just be bold here a little bit. I think the corporate Democrats have been bought off by big industry. Oh, yeah. I think they want to stop any unionization. I think President Trump would say, "Hey, do what you want. If you think this is going to help you get what you need, then go do it." And by the way, the other thing I think you and I have talked about before, if not, I'm going to bring it up now. The fact that the unlimited illegal immigration into the country has devalued a unit of work is something all units should be concerned about. Bernie Sanders at one time was actually saying, "Oh, this is bad because you're devaluing the value of labor and taking and lowering the price of how much people are willing to pay someone." So why did the Democrat Party not actually recognize the more illegal aliens you come in, the more they get into the workforce, the more you devalue American the value of labor from unions? Why didn't they address that at all?
That's right. I mean, simply when you create and foster an underclass, right, you're going to have a two-tiered system, if you will. It's more complicated than that, but essentially you have people who are working below the established rates of commerce. And that is something that allows for not just for workers, right? Not just for American workers is that bad because they're undermined, right? They're essentially unable to sell their labor because they're being undercut by illicit labor. But you also have a realization too that for the people who are undocumented, they're victimized. They are put in a very terrible situation where the best they can do is hope to eke out, get by, and then things get better for their children and their grandchildren. And I'm the grandchildren of immigrants. And so certainly that understanding of the progression that you come here, you work hard, and then your children prosper and your grandchildren prosper beyond your wildest imaginations.
Legally or illegally, though, that's the question. Because for many of us,
Right.
Matt, it's like, that's fine. Your grandparents came here. My parents came here. This country is built on people coming here for a better life, but you come here the right way. You don't lie and cheat and steal. That's against God. And this country is also built on a foundation of "In God We Trust." So that's where I think the Democrats lose a lot of us.
Well, I would say if we're going to go to the Bible, I would say we'd have to look at the admonishments throughout the Old Testament and the gospel about taking care of the stranger, taking in the migrant, and to always remember
You
that
do.
Jesus and his
You should
family
take care
were
of the
migrants
people
and
around
refugees.
you, take care of your community, but not at the expense of your family and your well-being. Because if you
Well,
can't, it's like your
that's not what the
oxygen
parable.
mask.
That's not what the parable
I'm
of the Good
not, I'm
Samaritan
not going
teaches
to go.
us.
I mean, it's either way, we're on the
It's
same
eating up.
page as far as being godly and being observant of what God
Right.
says. But, I don't think that there's anybody, especially in our chatter, that watches this show that thinks it's okay for somebody to come into this country and take something that's rightfully in Americans. And I guarantee you, I'll make a prediction on the show right now, that these social security numbers that are people who are effectively deceased, they're being used by people, yes, to work, who are illegal in this country. And it's going to be something we're going to have to address. And no, we should not just be so kind to let everybody in when it's to the detriment of Americans that have worked hard to be here. And that's where
Yeah.
you're going to lose a lot of us.
Basically, don't
Well-
take advantage. There we go. That works.
Right.
Well, no,
Go
no,
ahead, get out,
absolutely.
don't take
My
advantage.
issue has always
Absolutely. Don't
been,
abuse us.
but my issue is extremes. Tom Homan said that border encounters is down to like 300
It's
like
great.
a day.
Beautiful.
So it's like, or a month. So the idea here, and I understand what everybody's saying, and especially Matt. It's like, look, I understand we have to take care of those. My family came from Spain in about 1910. They came over in Lusitania. They took horrible jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
horrible. Their job was to work at a copper smelter in a little town called Cherryvale, Kansas. And I don't know if people understand how nasty copper smelters are. You've got to cook down rock and extract this stuff. It was horrible. It's toxic. Hell, I might have a foot growing out of my head because of genetic mutations from their exposure back 100 years ago. Who knows? So we'll look for that. But I understand both sides. But one of the things I did want to get to regarding something that overlaps both is, right now there's a debate about who else we should bring in from Afghanistan. Now, I don't know if for the audience to know, Matt was a serving Marine. He served in the Marines. God bless you. I love Marines, as you know, Matt. Joe Dunford, a good friend of mine, my dear friend, passed. Bud McFarland was a lieutenant colonel, retired from the Marine Corps. So, and then also Matt, during his time in the Marines, was successful. Was in combat. Also, then got out and then went to Afghanistan as a diplomat, right? And he saw from the inside kind of how bad the war was going. And I think this is where we came together, because in my book,
Right.
Operation Darkheart, I said, we're not going to win this. They don't want to win this. They're not doing the right things. Matt, we could discuss and debate how we left. But the bottom line is we left a lot of money and a lot of equipment on the ground for no reason. I mean, I think there's ways we could have walked away and not left the Taliban in charge. But I just wanted to touch with you and see what you thought about what happened and what we should do now regarding going forward regarding Afghanistan, because Pete Hicks has just announced yesterday they're going to do a special investigation of what happened there to end the war.
Yeah, I think essentially Donald Trump said, "Let's get out," and the military dragged their heels. And you can go back and look at testimony from Mark Milley and others where they perjure themselves about it, in a sense of, as well as looking at the timeline of how the military conducted itself in regards to the president's orders. And we saw this happen a number of times in President Trump's first administration, which should have been a constitutional crisis, say with Syria, where President Trump said, get out, and they refused to do it. And then you had, in the waning days of his administration, Ambassador Jeffries, who was the senior representative for Iraq and Syria, boasting about how they defied the president and they kept troops there and how they lied to the president. I mean, so you certainly there should have been an investigation in terms of getting all the material out. getting it all in was very difficult. Going through the mountains and everything else, it was a real, it's just the story of that itself. Anyone who's interested in logistics and supply, read about how they used to get equipment, heavy equipment, things that weighed in multiple tons into Afghanistan going through Pakistan. But, the idea being is that, yes, there should have been a retrograde that wasn't a panic. It should have been a retrograde that wasn't a retreat. And that's essentially what you had there. And the bigger thing is this, and they do have a panel, they do have this commission on the Afghan war that is staffed primarily by those who sit on the boards of defense corporations. So we all know what that result's going to look like, what that product's going to look like. But the idea that you had this war for 20 years and no one, you and I, Tony, others, Danny Davis, Danny Surgeon, a lot of us try to do stuff about it. But the reality is that people sat on their hands. People sat on their hands and just, hopefully this thing doesn't come to an end when I'm sitting in this seat, so I don't get blamed for it. That was the attitude of so many for, again, 20 years for a war that people knew was unwinnable, unless you were an ideological zealot, unless you were a sycophant who was, trying to hold on to the tails of the generals who were leading that effort. You understood that war was futile, that it was never possible to win that war. And they
I want to make that point, because one of the things I think you and I would agree upon is that over that 20 years, you had a whole 2 generations of senior officers go over, deploy, get their nice award based on I don't know what, because they didn't win. They didn't do anything to actually solidify things. All they did was continue. And this came from Ray McGovern, a Democrat. All we were doing was pouring gasoline on an existing fire with no idea of how to put it out. Ray McGovern said that to Walter Jones, our friend Walter, before he passed. He said that. So both sides knew this. This wasn't a secret. But the point I think we're trying to get to here is that the mono state, that corporate state, was invested because this was another place they were throwing money all the time, billions of dollars down the road. And people like Matt and I were saying, this ain't going to get us anything. This is insane. And yet somehow we were in the wrong. Danny Davis was in the wrong. You were in the wrong. Well, and yet here we are, all these years, and we were right.
Even someone who's in the news right now, Elbridge Colby, who is President Trump's nominee for Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. One of the things that was said about him recently was like, look, this guy was unemployable in Washington, D.C. throughout the 2000s in any Republican position because he had been against the Iraq War from the start. Right. And one of the reasons why, hey, if we should have anybody going into office now, maybe we should have the guys that got it right, during these last wars. As opposed to recycling these people through who've been wrong continuously over and over again. But as well, Tony and Chris and Karyn, I think you guys would agree, the most prized attribute, the most prized characteristic of in Washington, D.C., Democrat or Republican, is loyalty. So if you're going to be loyal to principle, if you're going to be loyal to, your intellectual honesty, that makes you someone that nobody wants in DC. Your partisanship is the most important thing. That loyalty to either individuals or the institution is what makes things turn in Washington DC. So that's why Tony's sitting down. We're in North Carolina and not up in DC. Although I don't think you want to be up there anymore, man. I know I don't want to.
No, I look. We've had conversations. I've acknowledged here on air that I've been asked to think about taking a couple things. I don't want to. I'll eventually give full disclosure of the conversations, but not now. But with that said, and Karyn, I want to ask you this as someone who kind of knows Matt, knows me. What do you think should be the outcome for those generals? And Matt and I just talked about them. Those generals and those leaders who basically ignored the political realities and decided that getting paid big bucks from corporate America was more important than
Yeah.
being honest to the American people. So what do you think should be the punishment
I
for those
mean, it
folks who
has to
did
be
that?
addressed. They have to face repercussions. I remember there was a time in this country where we would strip people of their medals and their
Oh, well, there
achievements
was a
when,
time, yes.
they did things wrong, and that's going to have to come into play. But I feel like to go back to the loyalty thing for a second. My hope right now is that with Donald Trump in office and us really dismantling a lot of things that need to be looked at, and I mean Doge being a part of that. Donald Trump and the mentality of the American people. When you talk about loyalty in general, how sad is it that the loyalty is to the establishment or to the two parties? The loyalty should be for anybody who's representing constituents in this country, any elected official, and anybody who represents the American people should be the will of the American people. And the will of the American people, the overwhelming majority, do not want illegal immigration. They do not want their kids to be in bathrooms with transgender individuals. That's not something they're comfortable with at this point. Maybe things would change. Who knows? But we now have a bright future ahead of us because a lot of the things that are absolutely ridiculous. We were talking about the mailers earlier. I remember the campaigns down here in South Florida, and the Democrats just focused on women's rights and abortion. We have issues to tackle. We have problems in this country. Abortion is not the main issue, but yet they made that the face of their campaign. And that's why they lost so many Americans. And that's why so many Americans like you, Matt, are independents and won't say that they're on the left side. Although I appreciate you being honest about your left-leaning ideals and about the unions and the things that you believe in, because there needs to be a dialogue because people do not see eye to eye. But, this country was founded on a robust, immigration in a legal way for the most part for the last few decades. We've had a situation that has been somewhat manageable. It has been unmanageable because the left has gone out of control and stopped representing regular Americans and what their ideals are. So I hope the loyalty is going to be to the American people. And I think Donald Trump is just the leader to do that. And JD Vance and, Elon Musk, I mean, it just gets better and better as time goes on. So we have a unique opportunity right now, Tony, to really redo this country and make it something again that's about we the people. So I'm going to stay optimistic. I'm hoping we're going to get there.
I know some of the corporate Democrats were saying, well, all this kicking over rocks is going to reveal some of the corruption
It's going to be good
on the right. It's like, yeah, we hope so.
Yeah, some of it will be. Some of it's not going to. It's not all going to be.
Sure.
Left leaning. It's going to be corruption, widespread corruption. You talk about Matt. You're right. The dedication in Washington D.C. to politics and not to the people you're representing is the biggest problem we have on both sides of the aisle.
And this goes to what you and Matt were discussing earlier, Tony. We were talking about the extremes on the there's extremes on the right, but there's extremes on the left who have become a lot more mainstream here. They will sooner bury themselves in the sand, bury their heads around, and like a child would hold their ears and go blah 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 when you try to explain to them that a lot of people on their side have been corrupt and they have to be dealt with. Same with our side.
Well, there's a difference between extremes. Let me be clear on this because I don't think I was clear, and Matt and I think would agree on this. To be on an extreme with an intellectual commitment to telling the truth is different than being a partisan that just wants to throw bombs on both extremes.
Exactly.
Because there's a difference. You can be an extremist. I'm an extremist. People, and I don't hide. I believe in the Constitution. I'm a free speech purist. I believe we should be. Yeah, so I'm pretty radical according to the left. No offense, Matt. I mean, some folks on the left, but I believe that should apply. It's like I would die for Matt's right to say what he says. I believe that Matt, even if we disagree, should be able to go out and do and say whatever he wants regarding his beliefs. And so to me, there are folks on both sides, left and right, who want to shut down and stop speech they disagree with. Exactly. That's what I disagree. It's like, no. That's why I was so taken aback by Margaret Brennan and the German, the meme police. Like, boy, don't go.
Oh, I think Tony froze.
Oh, did he freeze right in the middle of the sentence? There you go.
Good.
I like the way he froze, though. That's good.
I know it is. Okay. That's a great thumbnail. But
it is. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, Go
When
ahead,
Tony
Chris.
comes back, let's play some of the meme police for you, Matt, and for you, Karyn. Tony will be back. We'll talk about these guys. This is some of the German meme police from their 60 Minutes interview.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher.
Yeah.
If you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you in the internet, if I insult you or a politician,
That sticks around forever.
yeah.
You know what? I'm going to insult this guy. You have a haircut like Eric Foreman from that 70s show, and it looks silly on you. Okay. Now what are they going to do? Take me to jail? That's all. That's on the internet. It's forever. Oh no, I can't set foot in Germany again.
I just sometimes I watch things and I think to myself, this can't be real, but then it's real. And it's like that alternative reality, Tony. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
I had not seen.
I was in the Twilight Zone.
I don't watch a lot of corporate media. In 2013, I got rid of cable, and so I don't do media criticism. So I feel like I don't have to watch it. So I don't watch it because all those things that Tony was just saying about the extremes. Those are the things that get platformed, right? Those are the things that are.
Mhm.
I'll give you a story. Actually, Tony probably knows this story, but years ago, talking 2009, 2010, I actually was in Afghanistan with Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then when we both left Afghanistan, we ended up doing media talking about the Afghan war, arguing whether we should escalate it or not. I was against escalation. I was for getting out. He was for escalation. And we would do appearances all over. We were on Larry King together, but we did a number on Fox. And then one day, Tom texts me or he calls me and he says, you know what? We're not going to be on Fox together anymore. And I said, how come? And he said, because they said we're too cordial to one another. Right. It just right. So rather than the biggest news story at that point, this was like probably February, March of 2010. One of the biggest news stories at that point was the Afghan surge. You had 2 veterans of the war there and, veterans of the Iraq war as well. Both of us have our all bona fides. And now you guys are too cordial. We can't have you guys talk about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's only
Insane.
gotten worse.
That's why
Tony,
they-
when was the last time you were on one of those channels?
Oh, I'm banned on Fox. I'm persona non grata. And
He
then
tells the truth.
MSNBC. No, MSNBC. As soon as the cycle left, I was never invited back. So
Yeah, I used to be on MSNBC so often that I go up to the studio at American University and they kept my makeup shade there. Right. So I was like, wow, I've really made it. They're keeping my makeup shade. But, once particularly too, I think the second half of Obama's presidency, that's when, they all had dabbled in before. But essentially that framework of team red versus team blue. And that's what they want because that's what their ratings come from. And a lot of it's been pushed because of independent journalism, because of the stuff that you guys are doing. And this is the stuff that if I have hope, if I've got optimism, it's because of programs like yours, that are this alternative independent media that allows people to speak without the censor, without the filter of a corporate, or a big party, in control. So, I really enjoy being here with you guys.
Well,
Thanks.
Matt, well, we were mentioning earlier about the London Center being attacked by the Daily Beast back in 2017 because we were this. What was the term, Chris?
The creepily influential.
Creepily influential. Well, we were creepily influential because we didn't take any corporate money. We were independent.
Exactly.
And it's like weird. That's a term that they co-opted. Weird. It's weird, man.
Well, the Daily Beast is
that we
one
were
step
independent.
below the raw story. So
Yeah, I know. So, but one little program note, and to defend the core, because I often do that. General Dunford, was directed to withdraw our forces from Syria once they were done with the buy with and through strategy. I know because Joe told me, and Joe was in the process of doing that. But to your point, Matt, other folks were dragging their feet, and Joe said this to me, and you know this to be true. He says, Tony, the moment we leave people somewhere, they start looking for things to do. So it's like nation building. It's like, no.
Well, there's a couple things too, a couple points. One, there's a really insidious aspect of that, is that these generals and diplomats, American generals and diplomats, were telling the Afghans, don't worry, we're not leaving. Don't worry, when President Biden comes in, we're going to stay. And so it gave the Afghan government and their people a false hope, right? The other aspect of it too is that the agreement that the Trump administration signed with the Taliban had all these secret annexes that we still don't know. But the assumption is cooperation on counterterrorism. And so what happens roughly a year after we leave Afghanistan? Well, the Taliban allow Ayman Zawahiri, the head of al-Qaeda, to come to Kabul. And then what happens? We put a Hellfire missile through his living room window and kill him, right? And there's never been that established, yes, smoking gun, the Taliban gave this guy up. But the fact of the matter, all the details of it, how that all fleshed out, seems to me that there was this secret annex of this agreement that allowed for greater possibilities against terrorist groups than that war ever was going to produce.
Well, we'll come back and talk more about that because I think we're going to learn a lot more. But Matt, God bless you. Thank you for being on the program. I appreciate you coming on. And I don't think you shouldn't be afraid because we're friends. We're always going to have a vibrant conversation. But I always try to bring people on who have different views because people, it's hard to get people to come and just talk and be real at times. So I appreciate you coming on with us.
I don't think Matt was afraid. Matt, were you afraid? Matt didn't seem.
No, he wasn't afraid. No, Matt wasn't afraid.
No, he's not. Other people are though.
But some of
others are.
I won't. There's sometimes I won't do media if I know it's a trap. Right?
Yeah.
I know it's going to be like either I'm going to get upset and yell back and I'm going to look bad, or I'm not going to yell back and I'm going to. So that's one of the programs I never went on was Bill O'Reilly's show because I knew if I went on Bill O'Reilly's show,
well, I got yelled at on Bill's show. No, I got yelled at.
Yeah, exactly, and I wouldn't handle it that well. Or so I either yell back and get upset, or I would have, just taken it and looked weak. And so I saw it was a trap. But like again, what we're talking about when you know the other people that you're talking with are coming from that place of integrity that Tony was talking about, right? So I know that we see the problems, we identify it, we have a basic understanding of what's wrong, and then we just have honest reason or honest beliefs in how to fix it. That's all that is. And then the idea being is that ultimately you have a situation like Tony was talking about, where he's at his county commissioner meeting and he's sitting with his Democratic colleagues, and they've got that trust, they've got that relationship. Tony knows that these people have some type of agenda, and so they're able to work together to find a solution. And that's ultimately what we're supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, I think we want one thing we'd all agree on, right? It's not working.
Well, it's also great for our listeners and our viewers and our patriots to see what you and Tony are doing, Matthew, after you're leaving the service. Well, I mean, you never leave the service. I understand that, but a lot of good people from the armed forces are still trying to help and save America in many other ways. Unfortunately, there are other branches of service, like the Jedi Knights, where apparently. Yeah, and you got to watch this. This is pretty much Mark Hamill is pretty much the symbol of the celebrity left right now, and how they are basically trying to hold themselves up. Watch this video.
It's that films create worlds so vivid and stories so powerful that we lose ourselves in them completely. They create immersive cinematic landscapes that feel alive, whether they're set here in London or anywhere your imagination can take.
I don't think he was ready for that. But basically, the left's pants are falling down. The money laundering is being exposed, and they're very upset. And this basically represents the whole thing.
I think R2D2 took a detour through his pants. That's what was going
on. He wishes he had Tweaky with him. Wrong movie.
Wow. All right. Well, I have to interrupt for one quick second because the girls in the chat are going to be very upset if I don't show them the engagement ring. I tried to flash it on my shoulder, which was super awkward. All right. But I do have to show it for everybody.
Congratulations.
Karyn,
congratulations.
Congratulations, Karyn.
Congratulations,
Karyn.
Was that, so let me ask you,
for the close-up
was that what you were posting? Put it up again. So is that why you were posting all that cool stuff on Facebook on your feed of all this romantic stuff? Because
Yes. I
Ah,
was taken to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I really didn't know. I kind of suspected that Valentine's Day would be a good time for it to happen, but yeah,
and
he popped the question,
how
so it
many
was yes.
virgins did you see there?
Um, yeah, I
72?
didn't, but I was pretty much focused on my engagement, and that didn't involve any virgins from what I know, because
Thank
we've both been
goodness.
married
Thank
before.
goodness.
Won't
Thank
get
goodness.
into it on the show, but thank you
No,
so
no.
much for the congrats.
Certainly better than Epstein Island. So,
Well, that's right. Or Gilligan's Island. Hey, little buddy.
but you can still watch the Thurston Howell band there. That's not so bad.
Thurston Howe. Yes, right. So one of my favorite bands, Matt, they're over by you. They're over in Charlotte, no, or past both of us over in Charlotte. The Thurston Howe band, they're all yacht rock, and they are chill. They're great people. I always enjoy. I've seen their concert like 3 times now. It's always great. So hey, little buddy. So anyway, we got to go. It's been a great show, Matt. God bless you, Matt, my dear friend. Thanks for coming on. We want to have you back because I think we want to continue this dialogue. Karyn, congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you go get that ring assessed yet to make sure it's not like zinc?
It's all insured. This has been in the works for quite a while. I actually designed the setting for it, so yeah, we're all good.
And so it leaves Chris and I. Chris, I guess we're just going to be old maids and never get asked to do anything cool in the Virgin Islands. Just saying.
No, nobody likes us.
I know. Well, at least, so I think I've mentioned before, I think you got to go back to Ed McMahon, Announcer School Part 2, where you've got to swim from San Diego to up to the beach, right there, Santa Monica, while drinking 3 bottles of Jack Daniels. It's like kind of your gas.
I bet
right?
I could do that. I will train for that. I was almost going to go to the Kamala Harris School of Swimming, where you swim from San Diego halfway to Santa Monica, say, I don't think I'm going to make it, and swim back.
I think you've lost anyone who's Tony, with that reference, the Ed McMahon reference. You lost anyone who's not, I'm 51.
Oh, I know. I know. I know.
I know. So yeah.
So no, I used to get in trouble
here,
when we were on TV because I would make obscure
I met him.
quotes or references. So about one of my friends, which everybody does know, is Bob Hayes from Airplane. So Bob, I know most kids know Bob Hayes now because Airplane is still a classic, and that is a great movie. So anyway,
It is.
we got to bring Bob on. Unfortunately, so Bob, I know we're way over time, but Bob Hayes lives in Hawaii. So I love Bob. Bob and I are actual friends, but there's Ed. We're talking about Bob now. Anyway, but but problem is Bob is like 5-6 hours off. So like right now he would just be waking up because he lives on over by the Marine Corps base there, Kauioe, or whatever it is on
it's called K-Bay. It's called K-Bay.
Yeah. He lives right next to it, next to Obama too. Apparently he and Barack Obama are neighbors, so they're always like ducking and dodging each other. So I don't know.
So he didn't get to go to a dinner party
There
with
he
the
is.
Obamas, huh?
There he is. There's
I
Bob.
heard they're looking for a new chef.
So he'll have to tell us a story
there
about
you go,
coming in low
Chris.
over Nacho Grande someday. So
the cool thing is that my nephew and his friends in college, they know a lot of those films because I don't know if they've ever sat and watched the whole film, but they see the clips on Instagram all the time.
oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get them all the time on mine, and how good that stuff was. And now I'm going to sound like I'm older than I am. I'm now it doesn't sound like I'm 51. It's going to sound like I'm 81, but they don't make movies like that. They used to, they don't make those types of Animal House, right. Vacation, Caddyshack type of things. I feel like that.
So Chris on his other platform, whenever we can do it, we're going to have a show with Bob. And we're going to go through the movies you couldn't make today, like Blazing Saddles, Airplane.
You could. There's
Weekend
no
at
way.
Bernie's.
Caddyshack. There we go.
Yeah, Caddyshack.
Blazing Saddles. You couldn't get through the first 10 minutes.
Oh,
without it being canceled today, you couldn't. I mean,
I love that.
Slapshot's another one.
Oh my God, Slapshot. That's actually my
Yeah.
go-to Halloween costume. My brother has a slapshot jersey, so if I ever have to do, I go as one of the Hanson brothers. I put some tinfoil over the
and
glasses.
they were real hockey players, by the way, too. The Hanson brothers. And the funny thing is, I was a big fan of the New Jersey Devils. They had the crash line back in the mid-90s. The crash line were a lot like the Hanson brothers.
Yep. Yeah. I grew up going to Devils games. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Me too.
We'll have
Me
to,
too. Me
Turk,
three. You're a
We'll have
Jersey
to
guy,
circle
Matt?
back.
I'm a Jersey guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you from?
I was born in Bergen County, and then I
I'm
went
from
to
Teaneck.
Okay. All right. And I went to high school out by Clinton, New Jersey, and so yeah.
Next time you guys come on, I'm going to be I'll wear my Kansas City Scouts jersey in homage to the first Devils team in 1974 when they were expansion.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
I have a genuine Wilf Paymont jersey. So.
Wow.
Hey, is it true that people from Jersey know automatically where to go find remote grave sites for mafia drop-offs? Is that true? You guys trained in that in high school?
It's an elective.
They took a field trip to the Bendix Diner and then to Bayonne afterward.
The Bendix, they're closing the Bendix Diner. It's closing down. I just saw an article about it. I was so sad when I saw that.
We got to get you and Vinny on to talk about that then.
It's
we'll get Vinny back on. Get all the Jersey family on. And that's figuratively and literally the Jersey family. That's right. So anyway, we got to go. We are Patriot family. We kept you long. We want to talk to the evil overlord, Ed. Good morning, Ed, again, about doing longer because we could keep going for another hour, but we got to go. Thank you for being here. We'll see you again tomorrow. Right, Chris? We got another day tomorrow?
I think we do. And we have we have a nice special guest for you tomorrow. Maybe a
Great.
couple.
It's so special. I don't even know who they are.
Oh, yeah. Well, so far
He hasn't told me. I'll be shocked.
Yes, I think so. We're working on it. Okay. All good.
Right. We got to go. All right. Well, thanks for seeing everybody. Good seeing everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. See you next Tuesday.